This is the third episode in our latest season, covering missing persons and unsolved homicides across the southeastern United States. All opinions expressed are the interviewee's own. Listener discretion is advised. This is The Fall Line. Light the Way, the advocacy group that we've collaborated with over the past 2 years, participates in an awareness campaign called Missing Poster Monday. It's been going on since 2022, and the goal is to share flyers of missing people across social media platforms to increase case visibility. One poster that kept coming across our feed that we shared for Light the Way features a man named Marcus Oubre. In the photo, he's dressed in a white suit with a bow tie and a black and white shirt, and he's smiling straight into the camera. Marcus's missing poster reports that he was last seen in August of 2023 at a Wal-Mart in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and that his car was found wrecked in St. John's Parish. All of his physical characteristics are listed along with the make and model of his vehicle. At the end of the poster, there's a note. Marcus's beloved daughter is waiting for him to come home. We have shared that flyer for months, but Marcus's missing poster doesn't attract much attention on social media, even with the efforts of everyone involved. And when we tried to find out more about Marcus's case online, we discovered that there was little else available on his case. That's when we decided to reach out to Shayna from Light the Way, and she connected us with Shwan Dabney, the mother of Marcus's daughter, Sanaya. From them, we discovered that the lack of information available to the general public has only been one of the struggles that they've faced in their search for Marcus. Now, we're trying to change that, and we need your support. You have done this before, raised the profile of a case to a national level. So, we know that you can do it again. After all, Sanaya Oubre is only 15 years old, and she's been working to raise money to search for her father and to spread the word regarding his disappearance for nearly 2 years. Marcus and Sanaya's mother, Shwan, are both Louisiana natives. Shwan now lives in Arkansas, and Marcus returned to Louisiana some years after Hurricane Katrina. They successfully co-parented for years, and Sanaya is surrounded by lots of stability and love. She spent many summers in Louisiana with her father, where they explored nature and spent time cooking, and Marcus made the 12-hour round trip to see her as often as he could. Though Shwan and Marcus had moved on in their romantic lives, Shwan tells us that they remained good friends, and they communicated regularly about their daughter. Whenever he came to see Sanaya, he took time to visit Shwan's whole family, like her niece, Renika, who you'll hear from later in this episode. In the summer of 2023, Marcus was living in Baton Rouge with his longtime fiancée. We offered her the opportunity to participate in this coverage, but she did not respond to Shwan's request. Shwan lived in Arkansas with her own partner and children. She still does, and she was in regular contact with Marcus that entire time. According to some friends who Shwan has spoken to, Marcus was under some strain that summer. Sanaya was not able to make her usual visit, and he'd had some conflict in his interpersonal relationships that he was working through. He'd also made a recent career change that he hoped would be a major success for himself and his family. The training had been intense, but Marcus was optimistic. Marcus had worked in food service and the fine dining industry for most of his life. But in the late spring of 2023, he made the decision to take a job in car sales. It seemed like a natural fit because Marcus made friends easily, and he could talk to just about anyone. Shwan told us that his positive outlook had always been infectious. People just enjoyed being around him. We were told that Marcus was recruited for that position and was initially excited about the work. But for reasons that have never been clear to Shwan, he quit that job in the late summer of 2023. Car sales can be a stressful career, especially depending on the commission arrangements, but it's not something that Marcus discussed with her. They focused on their daughter, and he spent his phone calls with Sanaya talking about her life, school, and her baking projects, and whatever else his daughter wanted to tell him. Schwann only found out that he'd resigned later, after she discovered that Marcus was missing. And she didn't know that right away, not for a few days. Marcus was an avid social media poster. He especially loved Facebook, and he often posted multiple times a day. He shared videos of his life with Sanaya and his fiancé, marketing for his new job, music videos, religious messages, personal videos and song lyrics, and updates on his fitness journey. On August 23rd, the day he disappeared, his posts were less positive than usual. There's nothing that was overtly concerning, but he posted more often than he usually did, and his messaging seemed to convey some stress. He shared songs about trust issues and things like, quote, "Respect is always earned, not given. I give respect first, that is all." Schwann, Sanaya's mother, also found out that he resigned from his job that day. She was able to confirm that via viewing his separation papers from the company. But how upset was he? Schwann simply doesn't know. There are things that we just don't know about what happened on the day that Marcus disappeared. Some of the early media coverage, the little that there is inaccurate. It wasn't purposeful. Reporting often changes as a story develops, as families and police learn new details. But Marcus did not stay in the media, so those updates may not have reached the public, who could have provided leads, who still could provide them, if this story gets in front of the right person. On the evening of August 23rd, Marcus Oubre left his home in Baton Rouge. His fiancée was in bed at the time. It was somewhere between 9:30 and 10 p.m. when he left, and he took his cell phone, his wallet, and his keys. He drove his white 2006 Honda Accord to Wal-Mart near the LSU campus. This is backed up by camera footage inside the store, which showed Marcus there, alone, purchasing fruit. And Schwann told us that this is consistent with his new focus on changes to his diet. He was trying to eat healthier, and he wanted to be sure that he had fresh produce around the house. But after he left Walmart, Marcus did not return home with his groceries. Instead, he headed southeast. Now, there are some news reports that state that Marcus was seen on the actual LSU campus that evening, but we're told by the family that that information is inaccurate. After speaking to the witness, who is a friend of Marcus's, they determined that the witness had actually seen Marcus on the 22nd, not the 23rd. There were no more confirmed sightings of Marcus in Baton Rouge that night. But around 11 p.m., a call came in from a motorist who was traveling on Highway 3213 near the Veterans Memorial Bridge in St. John's Parish, about 50 miles from Baton Rouge. It's a rural stretch of highway with dense forest and swampland running along the edge of the road. According to the 911 call, a white Honda Accord had crashed off the edge of the highway. It was a serious accident. The car had likely rolled and landed back on its tires. Schwann tells us that the local sheriff had arrived on the scene within minutes. It was Marcus's vehicle, but he was not inside. We said that there is much that we don't know about Marcus Oubre's disappearance, but his family has some guesses based on what they know about Marcus. And there's information that they can share here for the first time that will inform the public and might help bring in stronger leads. But to explain the day of the accident, we first need to tell you more about Marcus. For this episode, we spoke with Schwann Dabney, the mother of Marcus's daughter, as well as her niece Rainika, and his child Sanaya. We reached out to both law enforcement agencies involved in the case, the Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office and the St. John's Parish Sheriff's Office, but neither has replied at the time of this recording. Schwann told us that she and Marcus first met in Harvey, Louisiana, when they were in their early 20s, and she'd moved there from the West Bank to be near her sister. When she got a job at a local Taco Bell, she was introduced to a fellow worker, Marcus Oubre. He was an athlete who loved boxing and being outdoors, and she was immediately attracted to his personality. She appreciated his close relationship with his family, too.
My first impression was very funny, energetic, very smart, great with people, and good at what he did. The things that he told me about his life when he was little was Marcus was surrounded by a lot of love and happiness. He had a very close-knit family. They love and supported one another. Him and his brother, oh my goodness, they have an unbreakable bond as well. They like two peas in a pod.
When Rainika, Schwann's niece, met Marcus, she was about 4 years old, so it's difficult for her to remember life without him in it. She told us that he was a major figure in her childhood and was as close to her family as he was to his own.
He was so cheerful, and man, he loves kids. Like, he loves kids. He was a very nice guy. He was caring, had a sweet soul like this. Like, it was an energy I've never witnessed a man bring to the table. Like, he would help us with homework. He would play games with us. He was always there. Like, he just gave a different energy. Like, I've never seen a man act the way my uncle act. Like, I've witnessed my uncle try to help other people even when he didn't have it for himself. He was a really good man. He was honestly, he was probably a dad that anybody would wish to have, and a great uncle and a great husband. He might get it from his parents. Like, his parents raised him right. But I really think most of all, like, that was just him. Like, that was just how he was. He came and visit. He'll come and hug us. Have conversations with each of his nieces and nephews and, my mom. There was never no bad blood or no issues when he came around. Like I said, it was always positive vibes.
When Marcus found out that he was going to be a father, he was elated. Schwann says he was involved in every aspect of planning for Sanaya's arrival and was completely focused on her from the very beginning.
So the day we had Sanaya, I actually had to have a C-section. He was the first one to get to hold Sanaya, and his eyes just lit up like he was the hands-on type dad since that first day. He just wanted to do everything, change bottles, diapers. He even taught himself how to comb Sanaya's hair. And so, yeah, it was just amazing. He was a really great dad. He actually put ponytails and bows and ribbons and barrettes, everything. Now, one thing about Marcus, he was very stylish. So when he had Sanaya, he would make sure that her hair was combed and she was stylish right along with him. Matching shirts, matching bottoms, shoes had to match the color of her outfit, sunglasses, little accessories.
My uncle was a great father. He would do anything for his daughter, no hesitation. Like, go out his way for her, take trips miles and miles, spend however much money he needed to make sure that his daughter was happy and had everything that she needed. Like, he was there to talk to her. He was there to guide her, teach her to swim. He was an awesome father, and that never changed.
Although Schwann and Marcus eventually separated as a couple, they remained united in their goal of raising Sanaya with stability and love. When Schwann relocated to Arkansas, Marcus focused on maintaining a strong connection with his daughter. He supported her in all ways and had a good relationship with her stepfather and her brother, too.
So when he would come, like, around her, she would just light up. She would just run to her dad, just hug him, kiss him, run in his arms. She just always wanted to be around her dad, for real. They were best friends.
Sanaya asked to speak with us about her experience herself. She is the youngest person to ever appear on this podcast, but her mother sat in on the interview, and she's been posting about her father for 2 years now. It was important for her to add her voice to this project, and we want to honor that. She told us about her earliest memories of being in Louisiana with her dad and exploring nature, and how she discovered one of her biggest passions, baking, with her father, who'd always had a talent for cooking.
When I was younger, like, we would always go out to see different places, and then sometimes he'd like point out different animals over there, like alligators and stuff like that. We went swimming a lot. One time it was like he was teaching me how to swim, and then it started drizzling a little bit, but we still stayed, and he was still teaching me how to swim even when it started raining a little bit. And then there was a few other times where, like, when we first made chantilly cupcakes, we made homemade whipped cream together, like fresh ingredients and everything. It was all freshly made, and we put it on some chantilly cupcakes that we had just made, and we had looked up a recipe for it, and we realized it needed homemade whipped cream and we couldn't use frosting, so we decided to make homemade whipped cream. And I found some recipes and we made it together. I actually want to start a baking business. Me and my dad started this when I used to be like about 13, and he decided to make a Facebook page for me to show off my baking. He'd always take me to different spots. There was this one time he took me to a Waffle House, and we got like he got like blueberry waffles and I got chocolate waffles. And then I was curious about his waffles. He seen that I was looking at them, so he decided to give me half of his and I gave him half of mine, so we would both get the best of both worlds. He had this really close relationship to music. Like, my dad was the type to show how he feels through music rather than talking. You may not know exactly what he's trying to say, but when he plays his music, you'll know exactly what he's trying to say just by listening to it. He played a lot of Bruno Mars, a lot of gospel, a lot of stuff like the Jackson 5.
Sanaya told us that Marcus came to visit her in Arkansas as often as possible, and he always made those visits special. Sometimes he'd surprise her at school.
So every time he would come, I would get super happy. I would start beaming, and then I would be like, "That's my dad! That's my dad! Look, it's my dad!" And then he would always like bring food every time he came to my school. It was usually like on my birthdays. So when he would come, I would always just be happy. I always felt like I was his world, because he would always spend time with me whenever he could. Yeah, we would always text and talk on the phone, and sometimes we would play video games together since we both had Xboxes. Fortnite and Minecraft, we would always play that stuff together. And he would come down to visit me, and he would bring me down there with him so we can spend time together over the summer. The last visit with my dad was from New Orleans to Arkansas. I had just finished spending the summer with him before we were getting ready to go. We stopped at like one of my dad's friend's house after we finished eating pizza on the road. And then we slept over there for the night. And then that morning we woke up really early and we started driving again. And he was teaching me about the grass and how the morning dew feels. I always remembered how I never like felt something like that before. And then it had like this beautiful sunrise. It was like light blues and pastel pinks and hints of yellow and orange. It was peaceful. And the air was particularly cool that day.
Schwan told us that the positive energy that Marcus put into his relationship with Sanaya was indicative of how he approached his relationships with other people too. But sometimes she worried about who he chose to make those efforts for.
He loved life. He loved God, adored our daughter, just a great person, help anyone who needed help, very trusting. And that was kind of a blessing and a curse. He, like a lot of times, some of the people he brought around, I don't know, I guess because I'm not really as trusting as Marcus was, so I would just tell him, Mark, you can't trust everybody. You have to be careful because everybody's intentions for you is impure. Like he used to lend out money to anybody with a sob story, who say that they needed help with any type of money issues. He would just give it to them. He wouldn't even think twice about it. And then when it's time for the repayment, he never received it or never heard from that person again.
Marcus could also be overly optimistic at times because of his positive view of the world and of other people. Schwann says that may have come into play when he changed career fields in 2023. He left Chime's restaurant in Baton Rouge and decided to move into sales, an entirely new field. And she thinks that after training, he just didn't like the reality of it.
Matter of fact, before he started working at the car dealership, he was working at the Chimes. Mm-hmm. And what happened is this guy from the car dealership was begging Marcus for like 2 years to come work for him. Marcus wasn't interested. But then, against his better judgment, he decided to give him a try. And everything was good in the beginning, but then everything just went left.
Sanaya wasn't able to visit her father that summer during his training and his start at the dealership, which likely contributed to his stress. He was also having some health problems, but Schwann said that Marcus was not one to discuss his negative feelings. He would focus on the positive and try to shield his loved ones from anything that might be going on. She doesn't think that there was one major event, but little things that added up. He seemed to be having stress at work, in his relationships, with money that were wearing on him.
So my first red flag was one day Mark, he had reached out to me. He was going to send our daughter some money to get her hair done, but he got the money from one of his friends, and it kind of struck me as odd because I'm like, Marcus, he's not sending the money, but one of his friends just sending it, and he have a fiance. So in my eyes, that gave me like a reason to think that something wasn't right. I mean, I know to someone normal, it'll seem like maybe it's nothing, but I felt like something wasn't right. The fact that it was a friend, it was kind of strange to me. One day he called me and we were talking on the phone, and I don't know, like he said that he was in pain, like it was like his first day back at work, because he was out of work for like a week because his legs were bothering him. He said he was in a lot of pain, so he couldn't work. So when I spoke with him that day, instead of him being his energetic self, he just sounded kind of, I'm not going to say down. He just didn't sound himself. Like, maybe he was still having pain on his legs, but he had to push through it, because he wanted to go to work so he can be there to help support our daughter. So that was the next thing that I noticed, that he didn't, he was always happy, motivating people and in good spirits. And for him to sound kind of down, it was, kind of strange to me as well.
When Schwann spoke with Marcus's friends, they confirmed what she'd noticed, that he'd been under that stress. That's what informs her thoughts about August 23rd, 2023, and what he might have been doing that evening. We know that Marcus left his home and went to Wal-Mart to purchase some fruit, something that was not unusual for him. But then, instead of driving back home, he headed southeast. That might seem like a random decision to an outsider, but Schwann thinks that she might know where he was headed. Marcus's brother lived in that direction, and she feels that it's likely that he decided to go see him that evening. It's a trip that he'd made many times before. It was late, but when Schwann found out Marcus had resigned from work that day, the possibility made sense. He could have made the spontaneous decision to head that way, or, she says, he simply could have wanted to drive. There's simply no way to know for sure. What we do think, though, is that Marcus was alone in the car that night, like he was at Wal-Mart, when he headed down Highway 3213. He made it to the St. John's Parish area, somewhere around 11 p.m. that night. We were denied the official accident report in Marcus's case. However, Schwann was able to offer descriptions of Marcus's car at the accident site based on what she was told when she spoke to law enforcement, and she gave us her detailed notes. Using those notes and a map, we spoke to several experts off mic to get a sense of what the crash might have been like based on the factors that we do know. We weren't able to verify that information with the Parish Sheriff's Office, but Schwann's version matches up with the scenario that our experts found most likely. The spot where Marcus's car was found sits at a fairly steep curve. The expert assessment is that Marcus likely took that curve too fast. Based on what Schwann told us, the damage sustained to his Honda indicated that it may have flipped 360 degrees and landed back on its wheels in an uneven, grassy area off the highway. As far as we know, no one directly witnessed the accident, but someone must have passed by very soon afterward because a call was made to emergency services to report Marcus's car on the shoulder. That part has been reported in the media. What has not been shared is that the passerby also said they saw a person walking away from the accident and toward the dense, wooded area on the side of the highway. We can't be sure when law enforcement arrived, but Schwann later told us it was within minutes of the phone call to dispatch, and when they approached Marcus's car, they found his t-shirt inside, but he was not in the vehicle. Marcus's car was registered to his fiancée, and Schwann told us that St. John's Parish drove to the address listed on that registration, Marcus's home, to report the wrecked vehicle. However, it's our understanding that no missing persons report was filed that night. Schwann said it would be 3 days before she and Sanaya and the rest of Marcus's family were alerted that Marcus was missing. They'd already been worried because Marcus had not contacted his daughter, and that was out of character. Schwann told us that she received a call on the evening of August 26, alerting her that Marcus had never made it home. At that time, she did not know that his car had been found in St. John's Parish, and it would be some time before that was made clear.
It was his fiancée on August 26th asking me have I talked to him at 11 p.m. at night because she explained to me he was missing for 3 days. My immediate reaction was, what do you mean he's missing? Because when she called me, I was asleep. So I was waking up out of my sleep to that news. And then my second question was, did you report him missing? She was like, no. And I told her, report him missing, because if you don't, then I'm going to have to do it. So she told me the last time she seen him was the night he went missing. She said that he came home, took a shower, told her he'll be back, and then he left. So immediately, I called Marcus' phone over and over. I got no answer. My gut told me that this was not just a missing person, that something was extremely wrong immediately. That's the first instinct, that something wasn't right, something was horribly wrong. As far as talking to Sanaya, me and Sanaya, we have a close relationship. I really don't hide a lot from my daughter. Of course, I don't tell her a lot of details because I don't want her to stress or, she's a child. You never know how a teenage girl gonna react to certain things. But immediately I told her that her dad was missing, but I told her that he'll be okay, even though in my heart, I didn't believe that. I even reached out to Boost Mobile, and they explained to me that Marcus' phone was not off due to bill payment issues. It was off due to the phone being turned off or dead. And I called his phone for about a week straight, up until the time the phone did get turned off for non-payment.
Because Schwann did not know for a few days that Marcus's car had been found, she initially put out a call looking for his Honda, and she shared his license plate information with the media. She asked friends and family to spread the word, and she tried to find out who'd last interacted with him. When eventually she got information that his car had been in that accident in St. John's Parish on August 23rd, the direction of her search changed, and she found herself dealing with two departments, not one.
In the beginning, it was so many stories, so many different stories where Marcus was located. At one point in time, Marcus, he was seen near LSU campus. That was the day before, because there was just so many people telling so many different stories. And his last location that we know for a fact that Marcus was before he came up missing was Wal-Mart on Stephen Lane. We know for a fact that Marcus was there. There was surveillance of him there.
There were not any clues to be had at Wal-Mart, just proof that Marcus had been there, and alone. But when St. John's Parish authorities searched the area of the crash, they did make a discovery. Some of Marcus's clothing and his wallet were found near a fence that ran along a gate near the woods at the highway. His phone was not found with those items, though this seems to indicate that Marcus might have gone into the wooded area, perhaps after an injury or in a state of confusion. There was no sign of him, though. Shawan shared that the sheriff's office reported that they'd verbally called out into the woods on the evening of the crash to ask if anyone was there, but that they had not explored further on the 23rd. Shawan was told that a dog search was done at some point after his disappearance, but we've not been able to find out when that occurred, or how much terrain was covered, or how much time had passed between the accident and those efforts. She told us that authorities explained that swampland lay beyond the woods, and the terrain was extremely difficult to search. It's been an ongoing concern for Marcus's loved ones. If he was hurt, especially if he had a head injury and was confused and headed into that wooded area, they're afraid that he simply could not have made it out on his own. And with weeks between when Marcus may have stumbled into the woods, as the witness likely saw, and when Shawan discovered that information, so much time was lost. They also can't know for sure that Marcus did actually go into the woods. Based on Shawan's understanding, the witness who passed by only saw a brief glimpse of a figure walking toward that area. If it was Marcus, which is the most likely scenario, there's still a possibility that another car could have stopped and that he took a ride from someone who offered him help. But without a thorough search of those woods by experts familiar with the unique terrain of Louisiana, Marcus's loved ones will not be able to rule out anything. They're currently trying to gain more information on the extent of law enforcement efforts, whether a second dog search was done, and if drones were ever used in a search. They are desperate for information, for help, and for resources. If you were on the road that night and you saw anything that could shed light on this case, please reach out. If you work with an organization that could work with law enforcement to conduct more searches in the area, Shawan needs that help too. Last year, the family was gifted a series of billboards by Lamar Advertising in hopes of bringing in more tips. And now they're fundraising in hopes of reaching other motorists who travel those roads. But catching the eyes of the right person on the right day can just be a matter of luck. So one of their best resources will be you and your willingness to spread Marcus's poster and his case as far as you can. If you live in Louisiana, that will be particularly vital. It's the not knowing, Shawan says, that's the hardest on all of them. And it's the most difficult for Sanaya, who spoke with her father every day, was his best friend, and is now left waiting for any word.
It's not closure. You don't have any closure. You don't know what happened. It's like a constant battle with your mind. Is he still here? Is he gone? It's like a never-ending battle. Just a nightmare that you can't wake up from. It's hard on her. The first year it happened, my daughter didn't want to celebrate her birthday. She wanted her birthday to be over because she told me it did not feel the same without her dad not being there. And I must agree with her, it didn't feel the same because we used to him coming here and them two hanging out for days to celebrate her birthday and then all of us celebrating together. But this year it was just us.
It was like suffocating. My heart was being squeezed. I couldn't think of how I felt at that moment. I didn't really want to talk to anybody at that time. When I first found out about my dad, I didn't really want to talk to anybody. I just wanted to be alone. I just couldn't. I was just so hurt. I remember the first thing I thought was, where did he go? Where is he? And then it was a sense of feeling like I could have did something. Like I felt like if I was there, this could have been avoided. And I always kept feeling this pain that it was my fault, that I could have did something about this. But deep down, I knew I couldn't. It just feels like a growing darkness. Like he was always the light in my life. He was always the person telling me like how to be the best version of myself. And when I lost him, I just felt empty. I always felt like there was nobody who could relate to me fully. Like I would always talk to my mom the most because she was the closest person who could feel my pain, but deep down I knew nobody could feel my full pain. That was my dad. And then just to have him taken from me, it hurts so bad. It hurts me to my core. And that is just sad. And the fact that it's just not getting out how I feel it should be getting out, that just hurts even more. The fact that I don't know anything. I hear his voice a lot. I have these pictures in my room of me and him. It's never gonna be like the same of having the real thing, but at least it's something close.
Rainika, Schwann's niece, told us that she hopes that, above all else, this podcast reaches the right people who can help Sanaya. She's helped her cousin and her aunt search for nearly 2 years, and she's seen the toll that it's taken on them both.
She needs answers. She wants answers. So, throughout this situation, like I said, my cousin remains stronger than I could have. And I'm 27 years old. She's getting older. And even now, like, she's still trying to find a way to, like, do fundraisers and everything just to make some money to hire people to help her find her father or help her get answers to what happened to her father. And, as her big cousin, I told her I'm here to support. I'm going to be here to back you up each step of the way, because I know if it was my father, I don't think I would have had the guts to say, oh, I'm going to keep pushing myself to go and find answers. I think at one point I would have gave up. I would have lost myself, but nah, that girl, she's very strong.
It's hard to keep any story in the public eye. We all know that. Very few go viral. But Schwann has been hurt, she says, by the lack of local support, especially in a place where Marcus was so well known and popular.
I was surprised because the number of people who say they love him wasn't posting about him, wasn't sharing him, wasn't speaking on the case, wasn't trying to bring awareness. But I wasn't surprised because he's a Black man. A lot of the stories, especially about men, don't really get shared a lot. I tried to call several news companies. I emailed them, but no response. I mean, I don't understand why people don't want to help us share this story. With me, rejection, it only make me fight harder. I would never give up on finding out what happened to Marcus. Our daughter deserves answers, and I'm going to make sure I work hard to give her that. Someone will see something that is shared about Marcus and want to help us. If anything, it make me push harder, and I trust God. Marcus, he's a great guy. He always was there for other people. Now it's our turn to stand behind him and be there for him. If you see a flyer that says Marcus Oubre, please share it. If you read about his story, please share it. If you know anyone who can help us bring awareness to his case, please email me. My email address is s.dabney, DABNEY 27 at yahoo.com. I'm open to anyone who can help us bring the answers to our daughter that she deserves in regards to her father.
At the time of his disappearance, Marcus Oubre was 37 years old. Today, he would be 39. Marcus is described as a black male with brown eyes and black hair. He's listed as 5'7" and approximately 200 pounds. His missing persons case is being handled by the Baton Rouge Sheriff's Department. You can contact them at 225-389-5000. You can also reach out to Schwan about search efforts or other support via email. That's s.dabney27 at yahoo.com. Next time on The Fall Line, we're back in Atlanta, covering the case of an East Point resident, Princeton Morris, who was shot in his own home in May of 2022. And his family has been searching for answers ever since. If you know of a case that should be covered on The Fall Line, there's a link to our case submission form in the show notes. Thank you for listening. The Fall Line is an independent podcast, and we appreciate listener support. If you try out the products we advertise, please use our sponsor codes. It really helps. And please take a moment to rate and review our show on your podcast app of choice. If you listen on Apple Podcast, please be sure to check your subscription to make sure you're set for automatic downloads so you don't miss an episode. My book, Lay Them to Rest, is available anywhere you get books and through your local library. Find out more in the link in our show notes. And if you'd like to support the show and the stories we cover, join us on Patreon or Apple Premium. Through both platforms, you can gain early, ad-free access to our episodes. The Fall Line's Patreon and Apple Premium support our Family Therapy Fund and actively pay for therapy for families who've appeared on the show. The Fall Line is written, hosted, and researched by Laurah Norton, with additional research assistance by Melissa Gold, interviews by Brooke Hargrove, produced, engineered, and scored by Maura Curry, content advisement by Vic Kennedy and Brandy C. Williams. Special thanks to Liz Lipka.
At Arizona State University, we've made online education better, smarter, and more personalized so you can go further in your aspiring field.
I decided to pursue medicine once I realized that ASU did have the online program for biological sciences. You're still required to learn the same curriculum. You're still being tested on the same content that anyone would be tested on in person. The comprehensiveness of the program prepared me so well for medical school.
Explore over 350 plus programs at asuonline.asu.edu.